Princess Ursa, later known as Noriko, is mother to Zuko and Azula, ex-wife of Fire Lord Ozai, and one of the biggest mysteries of Avatar lore. Other than the basics, not much is known about Ursa despite there being an entire comic trilogy about her. Stick with us as we uncover just who Ursa is, and what exactly she did to make her so distant. You're watching Avatar Discussions, and this is everything we know about Ursa. In the tiny Fire Nation town of Hiraa, Ursa was born to Jinzuk and Rina, about 64 AG. From an early age, she and a boy named Ikem were close friends, but they became a happy couple as they grew up. At 21, in the local production of Love Among the Dragons, Ursa got the role of Dragon Empress. She went to tell Ikem she had been given the part, and found him rehearsing his lines during the day on an empty stage. They rehearsed a play scene at Ikem's request, in which they would have to kiss on stage. But Ursa expressed her frustration with masked kissing, as the props were standing in the way. Ikem shocked her with an unnerving stare after she had taken off her mask. Ursa asked him about it, and he proposed promptly. Ursa happily agreed, after some mild confusion, and they sealed their engagement with a passionate kiss. She then gleefully made her way home later in the night to tell her mother about Ikem's proposal, but found her mother weeping over the headpiece of Avatar Roku. When she asked what was happening and where her father was, her mother told her that he was with a visitor in the greenhouse. Upon entering the greenhouse, before mentioning a prophecy created by the Fire Sages that assured a strong lineage of rulers to come from a marital union between a descendant of Avatar Roku and his own bloodline, the Fire Lord complimented her appearance. Subsequently, Ozai proposed to Ursa, and she accepted, without an option in the matter. Ikem blocked the carriage's route as Ursa was leaving town with her betrothed. Ursa told him, despite his plea, that her decision could not be reversed, as Ozai's proposal had given her family honor, and told him again with tears in her eyes to go home knowing that it was the only way to ensure his safety. Ozai told Ursa during his wedding celebration that she should tell her parents that they always had been good to her, revealing that after the event she could no longer have relations with her former life. Ursa then gave birth to Prince Zuko after her marriage, and 2 years later to Princess Azula. Even after the birth of her 2 children, however, she was unwilling to forget the loved ones she had left behind and frequently wrote to them. She hired Elua, a palace servant, to send hidden letters to Hiraa to her loved ones. Unbeknownst to Ursa, however, none of her letters made it to their destination, as Elua had betrayed her faith and on the orders of Prince Ozai filed the notes away. Ultimately, Ursa became wary of Ozai intercepting and reading her letters, and came up with a plot to trick him into admitting it. She wrote Ikem a fake letter in which she said he was the true father of Zuko. Ozai confronted her with his knowledge of the letter months later, alleging that her acts were treasonous to the Fire Nation's crown. Initially, Ursa was angry to discover that her suspicions of Ozai were right, but when Ozai admitted that he had taken steps to destroy Ikem, they soon burst into tears. Ursa asked why Ozai had done so, when both of them knew that Zuko was really Ozai's son, and Ozai replied by asking her why she had written a false letter in the first place. Her original plan was told to him by Ursa, and that part of her motivation was that she wanted Zuko not to be Ozai's son. As an act of revenge, Ozai claimed that he would handle Zuko as though Ursa's wish had been a fact from that point forward. Ursa later called her children and told them that a letter had arrived at the palace from their uncle Iroh in Ba Sing Se, along with gifts to Zuko and Azula. Days later, when a servant delivered her another letter from Ba Sing Se, Ursa let a tear fall from her cheek after reading it and told their children that Iroh's son, Lu Ten, had not survived the war. As a result, Fire Lord Azulon called the whole family to a throne room audience, where Ursa watched her kids demonstrate their firebending skills. As Azulon dismissed all but Ozai, the audience with the family was short-lived. Ursa found her kids squabbling about something that night. Curiously, she pulled Azula aside to get the full story, and discovered that Ozai had asked Fire Lord Azulon to grant him the birthright of Iroh's throne. Now that Lu Ten had died in Ba Sing Se's siege, Ozai was tasked by an infuriated Azulon to experience the agony of losing a firstborn by killing his own as a penalty for his insolence. Ursa sent Azula off to bed, shocked by this knowledge, and went to find her husband. Ursa made a bargain with him after Ozai announced that he had every intention of following through with his orders, on the added condition that she was to leave the palace after having concocted the untraceable color and odorless poison. Ozai accepted her offer, as he suspected she might otherwise slip it to him as well. Ursa tried to negotiate that she would leave with her children, but was forced to leave on her own to prevent Ozai from pursuing and killing them all. Before going on to Zuko and waking the young prince, she kissed a sleeping Azula on the cheek. She reminded him of her genuine, powerful maternal love, and told him to always remember who he was, no matter how things seemed to change. She then pulled her cape's hood over her head and walked away into the darkness. On a cruise, she left the palace, heading back toward Hira. Arriving in the middle of the night in Hira, Ursa went to the old house of her parents to visit them. Instead, however, a little girl opened the door and told her, unaware of who she was, that both Jinzuk and Rina had died years ago. Saddened with nowhere to go, in the middle of the town, Ursa retreated to the theater stage and cried to herself in silence. Norin came up to her, thinking she was looking for a role in the next script, but he invited her to breakfast after realizing how sad the former Fire Nation princess was, something Ursa gladly accepted. She talked with Norin as Ursa ate her breakfast, when unexpectedly, Norin mentioned her name while Ursa was sure she was still going to introduce herself. When Norin revealed that he was really Ikem, her ex-fiancé, Norin disclosed that he had met the Mother of Ears, who had transformed his face. Norin gave Ursa an opportunity to make up for their lost time as lovers, to change Ursa's face, and to continue their love. The Mother of Faces arrived. However, despite her apparent beauty, she was confused by Ursa's decision to change her face. The spirit gave the former princess a new, much clearer face, which Ursa accepted without hesitation. The Mother of Faces, feeling the discomfort of Ursa, even asked her if she would like a new mind that did not know her old life. Ursa decided, after much deliberation, to forget her past life, and to forget the children she had left behind in the palace. Ursa, who knew herself as Noriko, with a new face and identity, married Norin and had one child, Kiyi. Noriko was living peacefully with her family in Hira until the arrival of a disguised Team Avatar in 102 AG. The next night, upon discovering the truth about Noriko actually being Ursa, Zuko returned to the building. Norin stopped him as Zuko was about to leave and told his wife the truth about her identity. In the kitchen, Azula seemed to want to kill her and asked whether Kiyi was a substitute for her. Noriko's reaction was that if she really was her mother, her only fault was that she did not love her enough. The Mother of Faces appeared after Zuko defeated Azula and she ran off, asking her if she wanted to recover her former memories, to which she agreed. She apologized to Zuko the next day and told him the truth about the letter. Zuko forgave her, and Ursa wanted to share with her son her history. As for Ursa, that's pretty much all is known about what happened to her and where she is following the end of the story. But before we wrap up the video, we want to take a look into who she is as a person, to possibly shed light on why she did the things she did. Ursa was very rough, adventurous, and spirited in her youth. In contrast to her adult personality, she was very cautious and diligent herself, knowing the servants she could not trust, and hiding her medical skills from her then-husband, as she knew that her marriage to someone with the personality and rank as Ozai would mean she would be constantly separated and seen by vigilantes. Even against his fury, however, Ursa's strong attitude was seen when she admitted that he read her letters via a risky scheme, which would eventually indirectly impact Zuko negatively. Her strong motherly love and protectiveness of her only son Zuko were one of her defining characteristics, whom she encouraged to be as he is, particularly his determination. However, the relationship between Ursa and her eldest daughter Azula was strained by the fact that the young princess, especially Zuko, was emotionally abusive and manipulative towards her family and friends. She was compelled to constantly punish Azula, but it was clear to her that the brutality of her daughter was beyond the usual stage. It was her actions toward Azula that began the rage and envy of the princess towards Zuko for how she loved and cared for him while she herself craved the affection of their mother. While her treatment was good-intentioned, the way she frequently punished Azula made her daughter assume falsely that Ursa thought of her as a monster. Her assumption that Ursa never loved her affected the later actions and emotional instability of Azula. Despite all this, however, Ursa cared about the well-being of her daughter, as she wondered, teary-eyed, if after learning that she had vanished in the Forgetful Valley, Azula was healthy, warm, or happy, and seemed to regret how her efforts to make Azula a better person had caused such pain to her daughter. And that's it! Everything we know about Ursa and her history wrapped up in one video. Let us know what you think in the comments below. And, as always, stay flamin'!